Good morning, everybody. It's very hard to follow the speakers that we already had. Thank you very much. This is my second GovSat event. The first one was last year, exactly when I joined SES, and I had to do a speech, and it was terrifying because what can I say? Just joining the company while having no really background or experience and knowledge of what we're trying to do. And now, 12 months later, Melanie and Space and Defense team, fantastic work. I've been to many conferences, but this remains a marquee conference, and it's all about collaboration. It's not just SES conference. This is true collaboration platform with presence of a lot of key stakeholders, but also our competitors. There are a lot of our competitors in the room who have the right to be here and contribute and participate in the dialogue that we have. SES has been mentioned many times now in the speeches, and we're very proud of this. We're very proud of the role that we play, our position within Luxembourg, the support that we get from Luxembourg government, but also from NATO, from European Commission, from United States, Space Force specifically, and many other nations. It's been a very, very busy week for SES, by the way. Being in this very competitive, dynamic industry is not easy, I have to tell you. We're called, quote unquote, the incumbent operators, who typically are slow and not innovative, not reactive to the things that's going on. I tell you, that's not true. We are living in a very dynamic world. I actually like this world. I've spent all my career in IT. And in the IT industry, you're competing with everybody. You're partnering with some folks, you're competing with them. Things change every day. And that's how it feels right now in the space industry. So for us as SES, it's been a very exciting year. This week especially, we had our earnings release for 2024. We had our board meeting. We had a lot of shareholder meetings about where we're going as a company. And if you're interested, you can look at our earnings announcements. And it's been a good year. It's been a good year for SES. And it's been a good year because we're moving as fast as we can. Not fast enough yet, I have to tell you, in making sure that we not only keep up with the industry, but actually contribute more proactively to what we can do. We have amazing people in the company in terms of engineering skills and knowledge, an amazing ecosystem of partners that we work with. But enough about SES. I want to talk a little bit about how we think about this theme that you've heard of a collaboration between governments and commercial players. Because we, of course, selfishly, we believe in that. We believe success in the future in terms of resilient, secure, sovereign network is not going to come with nations working on their own. It's going to come by working together. And if you look at pure numbers, the number of euros, dollars being put in investments, and you compare the growth in the defense spend versus communication and satellite capabilities, you can see that the satellite growth and investments in satellite growth is actually growing faster than what you can see in the growth of the traditional military spend. So space has become a very important component of deterrence, of protections, as well as a big component of the overall armed forces in combat and in real-time situations like wars that we're facing. And it's no question, if you think about the vertical markets that we serve as SES, governments continue to be the most important vertical that we play in. Not just in the communications capability, but other areas as well. Our satellites are becoming more and more sophisticated. You're beginning to have more and more hosted payloads in these satellites that can do many different things. And not necessarily in war times, but also in deterrence and security and protection times. And we're delighted to be part of that and supporting the teams. So what you've heard, though, is very true. We have seen over the last few years a change of the strategy and approach that the governments are deploying. And it was led by Space Force in the United States, where they were starting to integrate more and more of commercial capabilities. But that is being followed very, very quickly. And we, as SES, based in Luxembourg, have a great example of that collaboration. And that is the Lux GovSat unit that we have built together with the Luxembourg government. It's been around for 5 years, 6 years. The investments continue. 10 years, Patrick is telling me. Thank you, Patrick. Right? And it continues to grow. You heard the minister talk about our thinking about the next generation satellites. But the thinking is not just about how do I build my own military sovereign satellite, but actually how do I integrate, in addition to doing that, the commercial capabilities. And I believe that's what's driving the growth. And if you just look at amount of dollars being spent in the United States in integration of commercial capability, not the capacity usage, but the integration of the commercial capability, you can see that from 2019, DoD dedicated about $25 million for commercial integration of satellite capabilities. And if you look at the budgets today, it's well over $100 million. And like I said, this is not just capacity, this is about architecture and how you integrate it. But you know, with all of that, everybody still wants to have secure sovereign networks, right? Every nation, every sovereign nation. And what does that mean? It needs to be sovereign, but yet collaborative. It can't be isolated. You know, no individual nation can create the resilience, the coverage, the capabilities if it just tries to do it by itself. We know that. So it has to be open to collaboration. Send for sure. Second point is, you can't rely on one orbit. You need to have a multi-orbit, and not only a multi-orbit, you have to have a multi-band architecture. The days of having networks that sit in different bands, isolated from each other, are coming to an end. You have to be able to communicate between orbits and with different multi-bands. And of course, it needs to be agile. It needs to be flexible. You need to be able to put the networks up very, very quickly when you need it in tactical situations, or you need to have a resilient network that can scale up and scale down and adjust and provide coverage when the coverage is needed. So those are the fundamentals, right, of what every nation is talking about. And look, we have taken this idea a little bit further, and I want to spend a few minutes on explaining how are we thinking about this. So multi-orbit networks is the idea. It's been around for a long time. We happen to have two orbits that we economically own, the GEO and the MEO orbits. We also partner very heavily in the LEO orbits because when we provide our customer solutions, we provide a true multi-orbit capability and not just focus on what we have. We focus on what the client needs. But multi-orbit is not the architecture that we call the future hybrid space architecture. You need to have multi-orbit. But what you actually need is a capability of moving traffic intelligently between orbits, between bands, seamlessly. Because many nations have today, they say, look, I have a GEO satellite, I have a MEO access like we have through the MGS contract that's been mentioned many times. I have a LEO capability. I have multi-orbits. What I am talking about is something different. It's an integrated network. These are not isolated orbits. They're an integrated, secure, intelligent, automated networks. And as I said, we have the experience because we own two orbits in our constellations that continue to be built out and deep partnerships on a LEO capability. But it doesn't stop there. Because the architecture is not just what you have in space. You have to have an integrated architecture with your ground. Right? And our ground, if we're honest with ourselves, the commercial operators, and even the government folks and the military folks in the room, when we built our ground capabilities in the past, we built them in isolation. So when we launched a satellite, a big satellite that covered half of the Earth, or a small constellation, we built fit-for-purpose, integrated ground infrastructure for that satellite. And then when you build the next one, you did the same thing. And you repeated it over and over and over. Look, and we deal with that because we have those architectures today. Well, the future is not like that. The future is a digital, automated, state-of-the-art ground infrastructure that's able to deal with multiple constellations. And we no longer want to call them constellations, we want to call them an integrated network, a hybrid space architecture. The combination of the two becomes very, very powerful. It needs the latest technology, it needs AI, it needs capability of big data, it needs seamless switching between the networks. And why do you need that? Because when you want to have a resilient infrastructure that is capable to deal with potential attacks that take out not only your satellites, but your entire orbit, you need to be able to move that traffic seamlessly. And you need to be able to have a scalable, continuous coverage of what you have to providing to your customers. So our thinking is evolving very, very fast when it comes to a hybrid space architecture. And we need partners, both nations, as well as our competitors, to think together, how do we build this? Because what we don't want to do also is to build proprietary networks. When you do talk about a hybrid integrated networks, you need to be able to work across boundaries, whether they are different companies, different orbits, different networks, different bands, etc. And that is what we're going to be doing. And we have an opportunity to do that because we have some very important projects that I'll talk about. So here's our vision of the future, right? An integrated network that has full Earth coverage, multi-orbits with integrated digital ground infrastructure using the latest technology to drive a truly integrated network. And this network will be able to grow. This network will continue to scale. It doesn't stop because you launched your just new latest satellites. As you launch new satellites, as you deploy new ground infrastructure, you continue to expand this network going forward. It's not dissimilar to how the terrestrial networks are built, right? As you grow, when you start building your 5G network and then the 6G networks and in the past 4G, you need them to be backward and forward compatible. You need them to be able to scale. Same thing with fiber. That is the same architecture that we want to be deploying in space as we go forward. And look, I already mentioned that there are a few foundations that we are going to leverage to make this come true. So today we already work on some of these architectures with some of our clients. We've created these integrated hybrid networks, but they're not at scale as we would like. It's just a matter of time. IRIS² gives us a platform. IRIS² is about 300 satellites, about 18 MEOs, and then the rest are LEOs, LEO high and LEO low. And this network that we're building in collaboration with Eutelsat and Hispasat is truly an integrated network. So inter-satellite communications is a given, not only between the MEO layer, but also between MEO and LEO. Digital ground infrastructure is a given. We'll have multiple control centers, ground control centers. The minister mentioned the one in Luxembourg that we're very proud of. There'll be another one in Italy. There'll be others in different locations across Europe. And these control centers are going to deploy the latest digital ground infrastructure. Digital beamforming, given. All of the latest architectures and requirements in the satellites are given. Now what we're talking about, what we're thinking about, what additional payloads do we need on these satellites beyond what we have defined? Do we need something in space awareness? Do we need something in EMI awareness in space? Missile detections, That's the work that we're doing right now with all of our customers to understand what is the requirement that we should be adding or thinking about the architecture of this integrated network in the future. And I want to highlight again, IRIS² is a foundation of a sovereign, secure network for Europe that will be open to all of its allies. It's not the end. Our goal, SES, is to leverage this opportunity, to leverage this platform, is to build a lot more MEOs than just 18. Because we want to reach that hybrid architecture in the future. So this is just a stepping stone for us, because we will be launching multiple iterations of satellites, and we will truly move into an iterative innovation and development. We will no longer be thinking about one constellation to the next. We'll be thinking about how do we add more to IRIS² as we go forward. How do we make sure that every year after 2029, when we launch the first wave of satellites for IRIS², we continue to add to it. And this is where we need a lot of the nations to be partnering with us. We want to make sure that the requirements and the needs that we build into these networks meet what the governments need in the future. So it's a very exciting time for us as we think about the future, and what we add to this secure sovereign networks to that approach, it's of course the commercial capabilities that move fast, that are agile, that are focused on innovation, and not just large players like SES, but a lot of the new space companies that bring incredible innovation to the table that we are able to integrate into our future architectures. And look, I'm not going to say any more about the MEO program that the NATO procurement agencies have launched with the support of course, Luxembourg government and United States. We're very proud of it. We work extremely hard, as the minister and the general said before that. We are deploying the architecture, we're deploying the infrastructure, we're deploying the sovereign gateways, we're qualifying additional hardware to bring on board, and we are delighted that we have now Netherlands joining, and I'm hoping with Netherlands coming to the table, there are many other nations across Europe, across NATO, that will start leveraging this infrastructure, because all the hard work is done, right? The foundation is there. From a procurement point of view, it's a government-to-government environment, right? So it makes it a lot more agile, if you will, as we go forward. So I think with that, I'm going to end here again. Melanie, well done, fantastic. And again, if you're interested about more of what we do in SES, you have the website on page. Thank you very much.